We hacked and slashed our way through the Verdite catacombs. We blasted our way through the island of Melanant. And now it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to return to Verdite for Kingsfield 3... No. Come on, you already read the title, didn't you? So yes, instead of jumping into the final Kingsfield game on the PS1, we're going to be taking a short little break and jump a game. Because goddammit, Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon is releasing, and I'd be just stupid if I didn't take advantage of such a situation and have my channel line up with current politics. Also, I'm getting a bit bored of dungeon crawling, so give me this one, why don't you? So obviously we're going to see the game get a technological boost, an entirely new genre, and we're going to drop the fantasy world for a while. I'm actually getting excited again! So what the hell is Armored Core? Well, believe it or not, it's From Software's largest running franchise, going strong for more than 2 decades now. It has, no joke, 16 whole titles if you count the soon-to-be-released Fires of Rubicon. Y'all thought Dark Souls was a bit oversaturated. You ain't seen nothing yet. This franchise consistently pumped out games until we got to the 7th generation. It took a bit of a nap while its younger brothers were soaking up all the blood, gore, and depression. But now it's back and it looks better than ever. Although, after playing the first game, I have a few doubts. But I'll save them for post-release, as for now, we're chasing our way back 20 years for the original Armored Core and its main expansion, Project Phantasma. Instead of a relatively medieval, low fantasy world, we're now stuck in a barren post-apocalyptic wasteland! Yay! Before we begin, may we take some time to admire the Japanese box art? You have who I think is 9-Ball, the #1 ranked Raven, standing there menacingly in a beautiful photo-negative green, while surrounded by a pure white void, somehow telling you so much and nothing at the exact same time. Wonder what the American box art is. You maniacs! You colored him in! Also, for the hilarious record, the EU box art is just this, but they zoomed him out a bit and put a city behind him. Japanese FromSoft hogging the nice box art again. Since Armored Core launched at the exact same time in both regions, for once the story isn't a massive confusing jigsaw that Kingsfield 2 was. Long story short, there was a giant war that devastated the surface, leaving it completely uninhabitable. So humans went underground. Half a century later, and what's left of the human race is now occupied by massive corporations waging a war for dominance for what's left using MTs, which are like standard warfare mechs, and ACs, which are the big bad mechs. Just like how they do in real life. You have Chrome, a superpowered monopoly who wants to control everything. They don't really care about human lives, and they're in bed with Chemical Dynco, who are perfectly okay with horrific experiments. And to oppose them, you have the Murakamu Millennium, who are the opposition to Chrome. They are a massive industrial company, and they're also okay with human experimentation by going more human than human. That's Blade Runner, not RoboCop! In the middle of this war between the groups, you have the terrorist group Struggle, who hates Chrome, Imminent Storm, who hates Murakamo, and the Gods, the poor bastards stuck in the middle who are trying to keep the peace in an increasingly dangerous world. So who do you belong to? No one! Because you are a part of a pure mercenary group called the Ravens. And before you think that you're the good guy who'll upset the balance and bring order to the force or some shit, after a short test mission, your first missions are to either kill a bunch of striking workers or kill a bunch of squatters. You are not some hero. You're not some savior. You're an amoral mercenary who's looking for his next big buck. And it's enforced by the Raven's Nest too. You are repeatedly told that the missions that you take are your business alone and the Nest will not interfere no matter what you do. That doesn't mean that you're beyond consequences, but I'll get back to that later. After you're done with your test missions, you're thrown right into the Raven's Nest where you can change your settings, check your mail, accept missions, look at the rankings, and the most important, customize your mech, and holy shit, this is insanely deep for a console game. You have 4 basic components: a head, your core, an aiming chip, and your generator, all of which are pretty self-explanatory. Other than that, you are free to change every single aspect of the mech from the top down. You can change that rifle you're carrying into a bazooka. Need more weight capacity? Well, 4 legs are better than 2. Your weapons have a ridiculously small aiming reticle? Well, a better FCS chip will help with that. And there's an insane amount of weapons to play with. You can hold guns, you can add guns to your back, your arms can be the guns. I won't go over everything. So long as you don't overflow your energy output or weight, and as so long as you have all the required components, you can build whatever kind of stupid mech. It's a bit daunting at first, but not only are you outright told what each part does by pressing triangle, you also have a testing arena to make sure you're actually happy with the performance of each part. And if you aren't happy with it, no matter how much you use the part, there's no depreciation. Parts sell for the exact same you bought it for. Although I will say that some of the parts seem superfluous or near useless. Like, why would you buy a radar when they come free in most head units? It's just extra bulk. Also, a lot of the upgrades seem pretty incremental, especially the generators, boosters, and the arms. I think the next one down is just better. Of course, it all depends on what mech you want. Speaking of all the incremental upgrades, it should go without saying that every single part you buy can completely change how your mech looks, feels, and plays. Too heavy and your mech turns into a tank, so buy tank treads to get around that? Well, now you can't jump no more. Go between the two with the forelegs? Well, now you have the best of both worlds, but you can't slide anymore, even if your default speed is higher to get around it. And that's just one example. To show you how deep the customization goes, every single head unit has its own AI voice and pre- and post-battle dialogues, which is just nice.
System engaged. Combat system engaged.
Main system engaging combat mode.
It's actually so in-depth that I recommend you look up a part guide just to see what everything does. There's a lot of hidden things that the game doesn't tell you. For example, tank treads or forelegs allow you to fire the bigger back weapons like chain guns or energy cannons without needing to stop like bipedal mechs need to. So once you build a mech to your specific desires, you can finally launch into a battle, and well, the controls take some time getting used to. The default controls are laid out in the Kingsfield style, using the bumpers to strafe and the triggers to look up and down. This is fine in a slow-paced RPG, terrible in a fast-paced shoot-'em-up. I've heard terrible rumors about people having to play the controller backward just to hit every button on time, the infamous Armored Core grip. Well, I'm glad to say you don't need to do that. You never needed to do that. You can just remap every single control except for the pause and map. It's not like it's even an emulator thing, it's right there. I recommend making something akin to the dual stick controls on the face buttons and set all your actual action buttons to the top. That way you aren't working with tank controls and you can hit as many buttons as you want up top. If you're using an emulator, you can even map this to the analog sticks, but keep in mind aiming is digital with no aim sensitivity. Once you're over the hurdle of controls, the main game is a rather basic third-person shooter. You can fire your weapons, switch them, engage your thrusters, which you can use to both slide and ascend into the air, and use a close-up laser blade, which uses the same button as interacting with objects in the game world. The thrusters, laser blade, and some of the guns you use run off generator energy. Hit the red line, you're gonna have to wait a while before it can charge at full strength. Run out, and you need to wait the whole damn meter. Hope you weren't relying on energy weapons. It's basic, but it gets the job done well, and normally any control issues might just be to how you designed your mech. If you think that you can't do something or that your mech is too sluggish, it's probably because you have a part that's interfering. However, there is universal issues, mostly relating to the camera. Your aiming sensitivity is too low for my liking. That's not usually a problem, however, when dealing with faster enemies and ACs, it can make swatting them out of the sky a pain. FCS chips only help so much. This reaches its head when you fight plane enemies. For most of the game, my AC was not built around vertical movement, so my best course of action was to turtle up and pretend I was a tiny little turret. Unfortunately, there's only so many ways I can say you shoot people in a third-person shooter, so it's up to the rest of the game to sell you. However, AC does that pretty handedly. Graphically, I think the game looks pretty damn good for 1997. I don't mince words, this game dropped into a sea of red-hot competition with the likes of Tomb Raider 2, Final Fantasy VII, and Gran Turismo, and aside from the latter, I think Armored Core graphically trumps all of them. It helps that you're dealing with things that aren't meant to look human, which the PS1 infamously struggled with. There's a lot done to really sell you on your mech fantasy. Sliding on the ground produces sparks indicating metal being dragged along the harsh concrete. Guns all have their own projectiles, which has the nice effect of letting you know what you're up against.
Oh fuck, that's an anti-tank rifle.
Oh fuck, that's an anti-tank rifle!
Stuff like that happens a lot. One of the other things I'd like to point out is the variety in the environments and encounters. Just because the surface is uninhabitable doesn't mean that you don't go to it often. Even if 70% of this game is blanketed in thick fog and under a crushing ceiling, you do get variety from mechanical factories to forgotten military bases, to my personal favorite, a deep underwater base. It looks so pretty going through these clear tubes, and yes, you do get to go up to the surface in the skies and... Okay, I was using the hot wind blowing as a joke, but here we go! The sound work itself is also pretty good. I could be wrong, but almost every single part that will make sound, like your legs and guns, mostly all sound different. Explosions hit like a truck, guns all sound weighty and huge, and somehow even the fucking laser weapons sound beefy. Welcome back to the world of Fuller Auto.
Target demolished.
That should be enough DACA to satisfy even the most goblin-brained individuals. What I think is most interesting is the voice acting. This is the first FromSoft game to have more voice acting in it in the intro and exit screen from what I've played. It's surprisingly good, though considering that everyone more or less has the air of in danger but professional.
We believe the targets are scattered throughout the facility. Release them as soon as you find them.
This is Boulder. We're almost at the destination.
System engaged.
This is the guard. We've cornered the enemy as expected. We'll leave the rest up to you.
The amount of actors is what really gets me. As mentioned, each head has its own AI. That alone is impressive. Speaking of impressive, there's the music. Mostly it's just thumping electronic beats for everyone to enjoy. The Raven's Nest theme itself is a total bop, and it should be considering the amount of times you'll hear it. My only problem with the music is that more often than not, you just don't hear it. It's just gone. And no, it's not the emulator. I checked other people's gameplay. So through half the game, you're playing in near total silence.
AC weapon obtained.
It's a real shame because what's there is good and fits in with the action, you just barely hear it. So with the presentation and graphics on point, the creation tools complex but understandable, and the actual gameplay itself simple yet satisfying, it falls back on the actual missions themselves to spice things up. Missions come in bite-sized pieces with a huge variety of types, ranging from the simple seek and destroy, to the always annoying escort quests, to the rather evil destroy everything you see. You're almost always taking missions from one of the two corporations, Chrome or Murakamo, with occasional missions taken from the guards and a so-called environmental group, and very, very rarely from the Raven's Nest or your fellow Ravens yourself. Most of your missions are just going to be shooting all the things, but often a mission will mutate on you, require something different than just smashing all the things. One memorable mission has you having to destroy a bunch of non-dangerous robots. Sounds pretty easy, right? And the problem is that they're next to a bunch of highly dangerous explosive generators which blow up at the slightest provocation. I took to physically moving the robots out of harm's way first before dealing with them with my laser blade. Missions also occasionally have hidden AC parts in them, and it's absolutely worth finding and picking them up if you can. If the part is awesome, great, you just got a new part for absolutely free. If the part is crap, great, you just got a nice payday selling it at the shop. one of the strongest weapons in the entire game can be in one of the very first levels you select, right behind the police barricade you start in front of. Again, use a guide because some of these parts I cannot imagine playing the game without. At the end of every mission, win or lose, you are given a report on your reward and expenses. Every piece of ammunition you spent and every nick you received on your AC counts against your pay at the end of the day. There are a few ways to circumvent this. You could use energy-based weapons, but you better have a generator that can take everything. You could also just beeline towards your objective, but your opponents might be too good of a shot to let that happen. If you fail your objective, you get the report and get no reward. It's also possible to get a net loss on a mission even if everything goes well. Fuck up too bad and your ammo and repair costs might be bigger than your reward. Certain missions, like the aforementioned generator missions, will dock you money if you destroy the wrong things. Some missions won't give you any money at all and will only give you AC parts to play with. You're taking a loss no matter what you do. Lose too much money and you can even go into debt. So what happens when you accrue too much debt? You get forced into human experimentation courtesy of Murakamo! Your progress gets reset to 0, you lose your name, but you get new abilities. I never did this, however. I beat the game fair and square and simply reloaded a save file if I fucked up. As you finish missions, you may notice that others start to disappear if you don't do them in time. And there are some missions that the game forces you to play come hell or high water. This usually comes down to a conflict between Murakamo and Chrome. You take one mission that pisses off the other and you lose missions as a result, or the situation that someone was trying to stop got out of hand off screen. This did mean that I missed the mission to pick up the Moonlight Laser Blade. No, please, I'm so sorry, forgive me! It's even possible for you failing a mission to open up a completely new mission down the line. One of the more memorable missions is when you're trying to defend a Murakamo train in the middle of nowhere. You take down a few planes and think you have an easy job, only for a random AC to come out of nowhere and attack it. I didn't have this happen to me, but if you fail to kill the AC before he destroys the train, he'll show up as a boss mission later. Oh yes, you fight other ACs and even other ranking Ravens. They for the most part play on the same level playing field as you. Not only that, but at the halfway point you're forced into not only fighting your first AC, no matter what, but your first Raven. Yeah, another much higher ranking member stops you on a mission Chrome gives you to attack a civilian city. Killing her was actually a chilling moment, even if it was somewhat easy on my playthrough. This is actually where the plot splits somewhat, so I'm going to throw up a slight spoiler warning until we get to Project Phantasma. You know what to do if you want to avoid spoilers. Are they all gone? Alright. After the mission where you have to kill or run from the Raven who attacks you, the missions between Chrome and Murakamo get more heated until the Fateful mission. You get stuck with two, both complete opposites. One to protect the Chrome base and one to attack it from Murakamo. And this sets you down one of two paths of supporting a company for the war. I supported Murakamo because I don't support a company that has me fire on civilians. Almost immediately, Chrome stops giving you missions and you work with Murakamo almost exclusively till the end of the game. Chrome will occasionally give you a few missions, and I think this is a chance to change your mind if you want. I didn't. And even though there was a rough few missions, I managed to get through until you get to a mission to help a fellow Raven complete his. Which I wanted to do because, you know, I killed a few at this point, why not help a few? Then he backstabs me and leaves me for dead. Well, fuck you too, dude. Continuing on the mission path, you slowly manage to cause more damage to Chrome's reputation until Murakamo deals their killing blow, starting a bioterrorist accident where you release bioweapons in Chemical Dying Co.'s labs. I'm a bioterrorist now. Huh. Chrome goes ballistic and you're set to mop them all up until you fight fucking goddamn Liberty Prime here, what the fuck? Although, the fight is pretty easy. And then you learn not too soon after that, Murakamo basically just took Chrome's place and nothing was fixed, and they'll eventually have the same fate befall them. I think this was the start of From Software's dark, depressing endings. Everything you did was for nothing except to pad your pocketbook. Countless people died only for history to repeat itself. Seems like a massive kick at the balls, isn't it? Well, the game's not over yet. You get a few more missions directly from the Raven's Nest itself. The first one is to mop up some Chrome or Murakamo remnants, only for nothing to be found. You go back and... Holy shit, you get jumped by the fucking Phantom Thieves! get out of that mess and you come face to face with the bastard who tricked you earlier, who accuses you of going way out of your league. Drop him to get the final mission, which presents itself as a simple destroying few mines mission. So you open a first door and son of a bitch! Yeah, there's barely any mines in this mission, and destroying everyone who opposes you actually takes you to the second part of the mission, which thankfully reloads your ammo and heals you. Next, you are yelled at by an unknown voice as you leap up one of the most goddamn annoying missions in the game, a platforming section. In a mech game. Fun. This, plus the fact that you can get knockback from being shot, only makes it way harder than it looks. After that mess, you get
Enemy ranking AC identified as 9-ball.
oh shit. 9-ball is the #1 ranked Raven. Dodge. Just fucking dodge. Then climb up another hole for another 9-ball! Fly, you fool! The only way I was able to survive this mission was to climb to the very top of the map, hide in the hallway, and blast him when he came through. And also, if you die at any point in these last two missions, you don't get the notarized report. You die and get kicked back to the main menu. Save. You finally get past 18 balls, please call your doctor if you have that, and a few more robots and come face to face with an AI core. Blast it to end the game. Well, that was a little bit of a doozy. Aside from the last missions and an understandable amount of old game clunk, I can safely say this is the first From Software game where I can't say, this is a good game, but... because there is no but. It's just a straight up good game. Yeah, it has some cryptic moments, yeah, it has a few odd game quirks and some bullshit moments, but really, this is a game that I think any modern gamer could sit through without a walkthrough constantly at their side if they wanted to. The game has a surprisingly low barrier for entry, and if you just want to sit down and only use the shop and your wits to play, you'll have a pretty damn good time. This is the first FromSoft game I honestly recommend to anybody. Most of the praise and criticisms I've levied against this game can also be applied to its direct expansion pack, Project Phantasma. Unfortunately, there's not much to talk about it. If you liked Armored Core, you'll probably like Project Phantasma. It's a pure expansion pack, no fluff. You can import your mech if you want, and to be fair, it's the only way to get all the secret mech parts from Game 1. I did not. The main problem with Phantasma is there's not much added. You get a brand new, albeit linear and shorter campaign, and a few new parts in the shop, and the shining headline, a brand new mode I'll get to soon. I played through the entire game to tell you this. I wouldn't call any of the new parts essential, however, now you start with a good chunk of change. Combine that with being able to sell off your starting mech parts, and you can get to play with the new stuff or some of the old stuff right off the bat. This time I made a bipedal mech, and because of that desert joke I made, I tried to become Commison, and my mech was the Hot Wind. Couldn't spell the name though. The new campaign focuses on a new character, Sumika, who wants you to help stop a new doomsday organization and their leader, Stringer. It's short, and apart from having a few missions you can pick between at certain points, is linear and doesn't even have multiple endings. It's notable for having an actual final boss, and more often than not, the missions are a bit more complex than what the original game added. And having a buddy, even if you don't team up with them that much, makes this game lighter and softer than the dark original game. But that's not what you pick up Project Phantasma for, buddy. No, you pick it up for the arena mode. Now, mask off moment here. I fucking love arena modes. I love any game that allows me to join a coliseum, an arena, or something similar. It's the reason Ratchet & Clank is one of my favorite games in that franchise. So you bet your ass I spent probably way more time than this one that was reasonable. I wasn't even playing for recording's sake, I was just playing for fun. I was gonna try to play all the way to the final boss, but this video was already ballooning in size, so I needed to scale it down somehow. Now those of you in the know might be asking why I played just Project Phantasma and not the other Armored Core expansion pack, Master of Arena. Multiple things really. Master of Arena is From Software's final North American PlayStation 1 game, so it's possible the extra time dedicated to this game would have given it a bit more time on the grill, so to speak. I was also getting a little burned out, and then I decided to check this game EX Arena and... oh dear god. There's 10 categories each, with 10 opponents apiece. There's 100 battles here. For the sake of my own sanity and to get this video done on time, I decided I wouldn't play it yet. When we get to where it's supposed to be, I'll make a mini video on that game. Armored Core was one of From Software's first big successes, to the point that almost every game in the franchise made its way stateside, which wasn't something that happened with Softy's other franchises. Even in the PlayStation era, there are 2 games I'm not gonna be completely sure I'll be able to cover, though I might try. But most importantly, this was a game done right. Almost everything about this game is fun, and that's what matters. If I were to give it a rating, I'd give it 8-9 balls out of 10. What makes Armored Core special to me is that it's a holy matrimony between the hardcore mech combat games of the PC era with the more casual console gaming group, and it just made a perfect little third-person shooter on the PS1. As a matter of fact, I think it's actually one of the only good ones, don't quote me on that. But I haven't played another one on the console, and only a third-person shooter that did it quite so well. Well, next up we'll be trading our guns and mech suits back for swords and shields. See you back on the island in Aphrodite. This is UnbornDecay, over and out.